This is Mike from Eldorado Guitars, and I'm coming at you today to talk a little bit about the Diezel VH2. So I have been lucky enough to own both a VH4 and a VH2, and I'm making this video just to give a little bit of my thoughts as to why I think the VH2 is actually a better amp for most players. So like everybody else, you know, I've heard Diezels before, Adam Jones, Billy Corgan, James Hetfield, you know, I mean, a lot of great Diezel sounds. You think Jerry Cantrell's used one before, right? So a lot of great Diezel users out there and Diezel tones. And so I did what everybody else did, right? Which is I went out and I bought a Diezel VH4 and, you know, it was pretty great, right? I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty great. I liked the sounds I was getting out of it. I thought the clean channel on it was a little bit lacking, but channels 2 and 3 were great. Channel 4 I think was a little odd on the VH4 for me. It was a little bit oversaturated, overcompressed, but this is neither here nor there, right? It was an amazing amp. So you're probably wondering, like, Mike, why did you get rid of your VH4 and get a VH2? And the answer is because the VH2 is really more than enough amp for most people. The VH4 is really just too much. It's too much. You know, the VH4 really, although it's a great amp, and I know most people just put it on channel 3 and forget about it, right? And I understand that, but it can do so much. I mean, it's got 4 channels. It's got effects loops for every channel. It's got a master effects loop that can be put in serial or parallel and have the levels be controlled on different knobs on the front. You know, it's got MIDI switching for everything, so you can buy like a $500 MIDI controller and switch all of the effects loops in and out, so you can have like channel 3 without any effects loop, and then channel 2 with loop, and channel 4 without loop, and then a master serial loop, right? And it just, I think at the end of the day, the VH4 is just too much amp for most people, insofar as it's just too many features you're not going to use, right? Are you going to use an effects loop for every channel that you're controlling via MIDI? You know, are you using a ton of rack effects in conjunction with your VH4 and then you're using pedals on top of it? You know, I think most people are probably not doing this, right? Most players probably have a guitar, they've got a pedal board, and they want to go right into the amp and get awesome tones, right? And that's where I think the VH2 really excels. So if you're considering a VH4, I think great, and, you know, go and pursue that if that's something that you're hell-bent on doing. But I think that the VH2 is more than enough amp for most people. First of all, a couple of basic things. It has some features that I really like. It's got 2 master volumes, which the VH4 does not have. So you can get like that kind of solo boost like on a Mesa Boogie. You can still use your boost in the loop, like I have a boost down here that's an EQ solo boost that I use sometimes, right? So there's a lot of options between volume levels, EQs, things like that. It comes with a foot switch. The VH4 does not come with a foot switch. Like I said, you have to do things via MIDI switching, which is expensive and cumbersome. And you can't save your settings on a VH4. I thought with MIDI I would be able to save my like volume, gain, bass, middle, treble for each channel and then control it via MIDI, which actually you cannot do. So really, unless you're going to use all the fancy MIDI switching with rack effects and everything, a foot switch, you know, doesn't make a lot of sense with a VH4. You know, you just buy a very simple MIDI foot switch. So, you know, this comes with the foot switch, which is much easier, much straightforward, right? Channel and master, very easy. I think that the VH2 gets almost all the sounds the VH4 can get. I mean, just totally honest, it's pretty much the same sounds. It's on 2 channels instead of 4, but it's pretty much the same sounds. The clean channel on this is much better. Okay, so the clean channel on this is a mix of clean from the Paul amp, the Diezel Paul amp, and the VH4. So it's kind of like a combo. So channel 1 will take you from like super clean stuff from the Paul all the way up into channel 2 kind of Marshall stuff on the Diezel VH2 channel 2. And then channel 2 of the VH4 is basically channel 3 and channel 4 of the VH4. So going up to half will take you to, on gain, will take you to about the VH3's like good sound everybody wants. And then when you go beyond half, you're into the VH4's 4th channel, which is, like I said, over gain, over saturation, almost just like, frankly, too over the top to do anything. I think really, you know, you get your deep control, you get your presence control, you get all that same stuff you've got on the VH4, right? It's just in a smaller form factor. And the beauty of this is not only do you get all of that stuff, but it's cheaper. It's cheaper. It's thousands of dollars cheaper. So I think for most players, the VH2 is really where it's going to be at. So if you're thinking about a VH4, I would really explore the VH2. If you're worried about differences between the two, I know that there's some threads out there where people talk a little bit about like, hey, the VH2 sounds a little different than the VH4. I do think that's true. I think there is a very small difference. It's very, very small. I would describe it as, and Peter Diezel in the videos describes it as more modern. He says the VH2 is a touch more modern than the VH4. I would describe it as more polished. I think it's more polished than the VH4. The VH4 has a very raw kind of sound. Kind of like a Marshall, right? Like an old Marshall, like an old JCM 800 or something has a very raw sound, right? A VH4 has that same kind of raw sound. Whereas like a Friedman has like a more polished Marshall style sound. I think the Diezel VH2 is kind of like that. It's like a slightly more polished version of that raw sound. You still get all the raw gain and aggression. It's just a little bit more polished. And I think that's what Peter Diezel means when he says it's a touch more modern. It's a little bit more polished, kind of like how a Friedman is to Marshall. Right? So an analogy might be like Marshall is to Friedman as to VH4 is to VH2, right? So I think you just get a little more polished. Now you might be thinking, hey, that's bad. I want that raw sound, right? But I actually think most players, once again, I'm going to debate that. I think most players probably don't. I think most players have the produced sound of a VH4 in your head, right? The VH4s you've heard are Adam Jones, Billy Corgan, James Hetfield, like I said before. And you've heard those on recordings, right? So you have heard a produced VH4, which is exactly what this is going to give you, right? So I think if you've got that sound in your head where you say, like, I want that Diezel sound, I want that Channel 3, Diezel sound, that I hear on records, like Adam Jones and stuff, like, I think this is really going to get you there a lot faster, right? The VH4 is a lot more raw. It's a lot more chaotic. Like the distortion in it is a little more chaotic. This one is just like a little bit more refined. So I think that's what Peter Diezel meant when he said modern. I would just personally say refined. I just think it's a little bit more refined. So I just want to do a couple of quick sounds. Now I want to be clear, these sounds are not being recorded into a DAW or anything like that. I've just got my Yeti mic and I've got the Diezel going into an aux. The aux has a V30 cabinet. There's no EQ or anything. It's mic'd with a 57 and a 121. And it's just going right into that and then coming out of my stereo monitor. So this isn't anything fancy. I might do like some more DAW type recordings later, but right now I don't have a lot of time to do those kind of more complicated procedures. But I think you will get the point, right? So the thing that I like about this amp really is that it has a lot of great clean sounds on channel 1 that are frankly just better than the sounds that were on channel 1 of the VH4. Channel 1 of the VH4 really just doesn't sound that awesome. It sounds kind of flat. Kind of compressed and flat. This one has a little bit more breadth, so you'll hear that kind of here, like, And if you add a little bit of effects, you can get some cool sounds here too. So I'm going to turn on, I have a BF2 flanger down here and a flashback delay, so let me just turn on those on real quick. And so you can get some really cool sounds, like maybe something like, or maybe even some of those like lateralis sounds with the same type of thing, like. So like you can see, you can get some really great clean tones out of that. And then if you turn, I've got the gain right now just shy of half on channel 1. But if you were to turn it up, like I'll turn it up to full, and let's just hear really quickly what that sounds like. good like crunch kind of tones out of it. Now, does it sound like a Marshall or something? No, right? No, if you want that, plug into a Marshall, right? Or a Friedman, right? So no, it doesn't sound like that, but it sounds good, right? So it's got a lot of really great sounds there. And then channel 2, I've got currently right now, I've got the gain at pretty much 50%. I've got the treble turned up just a little. I've got the mids turned up about to, maybe like 2 o'clock, and I've got the bass dialed back just slightly at like 11. And this pretty much gives you what I would call that sound, right? I mean, this will give you the sound. So, you want that Adam Jones kind of thing going on, you got it, right? Like... So you can hear, you get all those great Adam Jones sounds right out of that. If you turn up channel 2 even further, you'll get like great soloing stuff. Like, so for example, I'm going to turn it up now like a little bit more. Let's turn it up 3/4 just to show you. I adjusted the volume a little bit, so let's check it out, right? So like... So a lot of really great solo sounds there. And I think one of the things that's hard to convey about this is that it gives you the same feel as the VH2. So if you're wondering, like, does this amp have the same feel as the VH2, which is hard to convey on video, right? Like it's under your fingers. The answer is yes. Yes, and Diezels are very addicting to play for that reason. There's a feel under the fingers on a Diezel that is not on any other amp. Maybe a Mesa, old Mesa dual rectifier, like I have a Revision F dual rectifier up there. The under the finger feel on that maybe feels somewhat similar. But Diezels are just so addicting to play because of that under the finger feel. And this thing just kills it, especially when you turn the gain up to like 3/4 like that for just like a screaming lead sound. It blows your mind, right? It feels so good under your fingers, the way the amp responds. It does everything you want it to do. So you'll still get that same thing here, right? So I'm going to dial the gain back to where we had it, which was halfway on channel 2. Okay, so I've got it at about half. Now, one other thing I want to show you is a boost. So honestly, very rarely do I feel the need to boost this amp. I boost a lot of my other amps, right? JCM 800, sure. The Vintage Modern, sure. Even Friedman sometimes, right? Sure, like in different circumstances, right? Yeah, I mean, my Mesa Boogie, right? Like, totally. But this amp, I feel like most of the time really just doesn't need a boost. But I am going to put one in front of it just to show you. And I think that's really where you're going to enter like that saturation sound. Like the way I would put it is on a Friedman, it would be like turning on the sat switch kind of on the back, right? So like everybody knows like the BE channel and the JBE, the Jerry Cantrell brown eye channel, right, is basically just a saturation switch, right? Which is the same thing they have on the back of the BE 100, right? So I think when you add a boost to the VH2, it's kind of like doing that, right? It's almost like adding like a saturation switch. You're really not going to gain a lot more volume or like aggression. You're just going to get a different sound, a filtered kind of sound, I think is what you're really going to get, right? So it's going to take out whatever like thumpy lows a Diezel has. It's going to remove them. I don't know if that's great or not because the lows on a Diezel are really awesome, but it does give it that saturated, just brutal, thick sound. So I want to do that for you. So I've got the gain, like I said, back at half. I'm going to step on this BB preamp. This is an exotic BB preamp that I have. It's currently set at volume is at about 11, Gain is at about 9 o'clock. Treble is at about like 2 o'clock, 1 or 2 o'clock, and then bass is straight up. So just for perspective, okay? So I'll just play for a second. Here's kind of our before sound. So let's hear our before sound. Give you guys a little more volume, and I'm gonna play an Alice in Chains riff here for you. So like, right, so we'll play like Them Bones or something, right? Like. Okay, now I'll turn on the boost. That is a hot sound, right? That is a hot sound. I mean, just wow. You just kind of keep playing, you know? I mean, just like. So yeah, you guys get the point. You know, you can get all those great sounds, right? So I would just say, right, if you're thinking about a VH4, check out the VH2. Everybody's always asking my opinion, and I just thought I would give it to you guys in a quick video. So check it out. Please like and subscribe my channel if you like this content. You want to see more stuff. I've got a bunch of great videos coming soon, and I'll see you guys all later. So check out the VH2. Peace.